Hey, Jill Small here. Today we're going to talk about companion planting with your tomatoes. I'm going to give you an example, some of the stuff I'm using, and then I'll leave in the description too, but I'll let you know some other plants you might consider to run alongside your tomatoes, beneficial plants. So this is our pasting tomato bed. These are plum regals. We've got pollinators in the back there. Those are Rosa Sharon. They bloom a little later in the summer. These are daylilies. There's 3 of these. There's one to my left. We have some Zinnia in there, which does serve another purpose other than pollination. And down here is some feather celosia, which is also a later bloomer. And you might be asking why I'm doing that. These are determinate tomatoes. So when they hit, the plan is pull them and process them. And in the meantime, about 4 weeks before they hit, we will start probably early girls and replace these tomatoes with early girls and then get another batch of tomatoes. So first up is dill. I want to get right to the dill. You really don't want this to get mature because it will inhibit growth. But before it's mature, it actually helps to repel the tomato hornworm. So we just have one in here. We didn't go nuts with our companion planting. We have a diversity, but it did put some dill in, but I got to keep an eye on it because once it gets mature, it needs to come out of here so it doesn't mitigate growth in these tomatoes that are right beside it. Next up is our sage. That's a tricolor sage. It's a so-called beer garden sage, common sage. And they actually repel flea beetle and also attract other beneficial insects. So they're placed on this side of the garden in this little 4 square of pasting tomatoes. So next up is our Zinnia, and that attracts predatory wasps. It helps control your hornworms as well. Along with that, and we will be adding it, will be a marigold, which combats nematodes, and also nasturtium, which is good to fight off aphids. Now, as you see there, that's oregano. That's Greek oregano. It's pungent, so it's going to repel some insects as well. However, that is there because it's a perennial, and I'm going to establish a permanent oregano stand there and basically try to keep it between where these 2 tomatoes are currently. In this little quad, we have some carrots. They're pretty handy. There's some garlic in there we'll talk about in a second. But I want to talk about parsley here. Parsley will enhance the flavor of your tomatoes. And these guys are Italian flat leaf parsley, which we used last year. You can go back on my channel and see. In fact, it's still in the ground in the other bed and going to seed, which I will be keeping. In our garden anyway, the last thing we have, some basil right there, and over here. And they are just wonderful too for insect control. As is the garlic for red spider mites, which we generally don't have any issues with around here. There's a few onions in there, and there's some chives down by some peppers. Any of that stuff, onion, chives, peppers, shallots, are going to be fine with your tomato garden. But I do want to reiterate, if you're going to use dill, pull it when it starts getting mature, because it will mitigate the growth on your tomato crop. Now there are other things, of course. Ideally, we are going to add the marigold and nasturtium, which isn't in here. You can also use borage, which is a fantastic companion plant for tomatoes. It serves a lot of purposes, but it also repels your hornworms. But generally speaking, you need some trap crops. You need some crops that attract beneficial insects and some things that enhance flavor. and that kind of stuff. I'll leave a list down in the description for you in case you're completely unaware, or maybe a link to some really cool pages on this subject. And just as a bonus, this is a container tomato. That too is a plum regal, and put some basil in there. This is a speckled Roman, lagging behind a little bit, and it has some basil in there. And then in the raised bed over there, that's a Cherokee purple, and there's an nasturtium companion plant with it, along with a bunch of onions and some zinnia. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave some comments down there what kind of stuff you do, or leave questions. This is a garden guru video, so you never know who might answer. 3, 2, 1. Peace, y'all.